Hey guys, it's Max with Max Tech, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the top 5 problems with the new iPad Pro. Now, Apple just released the new iPad Pro, and beforehand the rumors were coming out about all the new devices, and this was the one that I was least excited about. After the event was over though, the iPad Pro is what I'm actually now most excited for, and yes, we are getting one in, so make sure you hit that subscribe button, and while you're down there, don't forget to hit that bell notifications icon as well. Now, even though this is the biggest update to the iPad Pro ever, and that A12X Bionic processor is ridiculously powerful, beating out even the most expensive 15-inch MacBook Pro from 2017, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. Here are the top 5 problems with the new iPad Pro. Number 1 is going to be the price. The new 11-inch version, which is an update to the 10.5-inch version, costs $150 more, and if you want the larger 12.9-inch version, that thing is $1,000 starting price, so $200 more expensive than the previous model. I feel really bad to anybody who just spent a bunch of money on a 10.5-inch iPad Pro and now you have a new model that's really updated but costs way more money. Apple is doing a fantastic job upping their prices on all of their devices across the board, and Apple is already known for having expensive products. Now, if you're a shareholder or you have stock or anything like that, you should be very happy because the average sales price is shooting way up there, especially thanks to the new iPhone X and XS Max. To make this an even bigger point, Apple just had their earnings call, and there they announced that they will no longer be releasing volume numbers for sales of iPhones and iPads and their other devices because sales numbers don't matter as much as they used to. Now, that's because all of their devices are more expensive, so even though they're not selling as many, their profits are through the roof. Number 2 is that you're going to have to buy the new Apple Pencil. Now, yes, the new one is a great design. It's a really big update. You have some gestures on there. It's magnetic. It attaches to the side of the iPad, and it also charges and syncs that way. But you do have to buy that one. You can no longer use the standard Apple Pencil that you just spent $100 on. This is a nice device, but it is very pricey, and I would have loved to see Apple still have backwards compatibility for this. And not everybody can afford to buy another one if you just spent that much money, especially with the new iPads costing that much more. So this makes a larger barrier to entry to upgrading to the new iPad Pro. Now, I know they no longer have a lightning jack on the new iPad, but they could have maybe sold another adapter for $9 like they are with the new USB-C to headphone adapter and just allowed you to use this, or it may be even better, just plug it into your iPhone, have it sync to the iCloud like your other Bluetooth devices, and then have it sync with the iPad. So, if you're already spending a bunch of money and you don't have the budget for it, maybe you can wait half a year or a year whenever you can afford to buy the new one. So it sucks, especially if you just picked up one of these $100 Apple Pencils. Number 3 is going to be the RAM. Now, this isn't completely confirmed yet, but there's a lot of sources talking about that there's a 6GB version of the iPad Pro, but in order to get 6 gigs of RAM, you have to buy the 1TB option. That means spending around $1,500 for the 11-inch and $1,700 for the 12.9-inch iPad Pros. The base ones will come most likely with 4GB of RAM, and if you want the higher end model, you have to spend that crazy amount of money. Now, sure, iOS is very optimized and it doesn't need as much RAM as Android devices, but if you're buying such an expensive Pro device that is supposed to replace your desktop or your laptop computer, I would definitely want to have 6 gigs of RAM, especially now that we have very powerful kind of desktop grade apps like the new Lightroom and the new Photoshop that they showed off on stage. I'm fairly certain that the lady that was showing off Photoshop with like 170 different layers and using AR, she was probably using the top end model with 6 gigs of RAM. So now that we have these capabilities and it's becoming much more powerful device and we have crazy CPU and graphics performance, I would like to see 6 gigs of RAM all across the board. Sure, your iPhone has a 4 gigs of RAM if you buy the expensive model, but you're not doing 170 layers of Photoshop on your phone. And then if we look at some other devices like this new guy right here, the OnePlus 6T, which starts at $580 for the 8GB of RAM model, obviously they're making a profit here, and this is a cell phone. So if you're selling an iPad Pro, please give us 6 gigs of RAM all across the board, just in case we do want to use it for what you're advertising it. Number 4 might be the biggest deal to a lot of you guys, and that's the fact that the new iPad Pros no longer have a headphone jack. Now it was a little bit more lenient with Apple when they removed it from the iPhones. They wanted to make space for other features, larger batteries, stuff like that, and you have a very small device, but the iPad Pros are quite large, so there's definitely space for a headphone jack. Not only that, on the stage they showed off like DJ equipment being used and plugged into the iPad. So if you're a DJ, wouldn't you want to have a headphone jack that can output really good quality audio instead of relying on Bluetooth or a bunch of adapters? That just makes a lot of sense to have that in this device. I think Apple just at this point just wants to sell their Bluetooth stuff, and I'm not certain about this yet, but the new USB-C to headphone adapter that they sell on their website most likely won't be included with the iPad, just like if you buy an $1,100 iPhone, they no longer include that adapter as well. Number 5 is the new, more expensive keyboard case. You no longer have that slim vertical standing mode like you did with the previous case and the previous smart cover. Now this was very useful if you have a limited amount of counter space and you want to be able to watch a video or do something else without having to take up a larger space with the keyboard folded out. Now you do have 2 modes with the new keyboard case, so you can kind of adjust your angle, but the case seems like it's longer now, and that way you'll always have to have it opened up if you want your iPad to be open and standing there so you can watch something. Now if you don't need the keyboard, thankfully you could still buy the Smart Folio, which now does cover the back, and it also allows you to put it into that vertical orientation and not take up a lot of room. But unfortunately it does cost more now, which kind of makes sense, but you cannot get it in a premium leather version like you could in the past. So now you can only get it in plastic, and it costs $10 more than the previous premium leather version. Now I'm going to add in one more thing as a bonus, and that is the camera. So we have the same sensor and lens from the iPhone XS and the XR and the XS Max. So we do have a really nice quality camera, and it also has all those smart HDR features, which are fantastic. Now I'm not somebody that goes out and shoots a bunch of photos with an iPad, but if you take a look at the iPad and what they were showing off, a lot of people take shots of documents, and they're also maybe doing some video, they're recording some AR stuff. And one downside with that camera is you no longer have optical image stabilization. Now my guess is they removed the optical image stabilization just to make it a little bit thinner and maybe smaller, and that way the camera bump isn't as large. But if you are going to be recording video, optical image stabilization really helps. And also if you take photos in some lower light conditions, let's say you're scanning a document inside your house, it really helps to stabilize the image so you get very nice sharp results. I definitely think that they should have left this in, even if it meant making that camera bump slightly thicker. Either way, you can't lay this thing down perfectly flat on your desk, even though it's like the perfect shape and design to be able to do so, because of the camera bump that's already there. So if we're already dealing with a camera bump and a little bit of wobble when you put it down on your desk, why not make it just slightly thicker and have optical image stabilization just like your iPhones? Now with these top 5, or actually 6 problems of the iPad Pro, I want to say that I'm still very excited for this device. If you guys bought one or you're going to buy one, let me know in the comment section below. And if you know of any other problems or anything else that bugs you about this device, also comment below. I'm excited to hear your guys' opinions. Now with that new design, and we have Face ID and that crazy powerful processor which has 8 cores and 7 cores for the graphics, along with all these new apps, this is really looking like a very compelling device, and the first one that really makes me kind of believe in the whole prospect of an iPad Pro being able to replace, let's say, a laptop or a desktop. So we do have one coming in. We will be comparing it to a MacBook and seeing, can it actually replace your MacBook? So make sure you guys are subscribed, that you have the little notification bell enabled. This has been Max, and I will see you in the next video.